Hey, what's happening, my network marketing friends? Here, Todd Falcone. Welcome back here to another episode, and today I want to talk to you about the compound effect. Actually, Darren Hardy wrote a book called The Compound Effect, which is essentially the act of creating incredible results through seemingly insignificant actions. And over the last couple of weeks, I've been doing a bunch of Facebook Lives and a bunch of trainings on the subject of fiscal responsibility in the network marketing profession. A lot of people get into this space, they start making money, but they're not smart with their money. And I could go into a litany of stories of people that I know personally who have made tons of money, but they have literally nothing to show for it. They've purchased big fancy cars and houses and things and stuff, and they've leveraged themselves to a point where if and when, and typically when something happens, in fact, when their check adjusts, they're living far beyond their financial means, and they end up getting in trouble. They end up having to sell all their items, and it's just a scary situation. So what I want to talk to you about today is just being financially responsible, but I also want to bring the compound effect in this discussion into the compound effect of your actions in the network marketing space. So there's two sides to this. There's the money side, the compounding of interest or the compounding of money. I'll talk about that. I'll give you an example here in a moment. And then the compounding of your actual activities. It's fascinating because in network marketing, people will put stuff off and they'll like, well, you know, what's another day of me not doing something? I haven't really earned any money yet anyhow. So if I put it off for yet another day, it's not that big of a deal. You know, it's funny how people will show up for something that they may not even like very much, perhaps their job. I'm not saying you don't like your job, but many people don't like working for somebody and they come home and they're complaining to their spouse, let me vent, I need to tell you about my day. And they don't like it, but they'll show up every single day because the consequences of them not showing up are so significant that it'll oftentimes force people to show up for something that they may not even enjoy so much. And then they're involved in network marketing. They've got this side business, this side hustle, this secondary thing that they're doing to potentially create freedom for themselves. But then they continue to put it off and they're thinking, well, what's another day of me putting it off because I'm really not making that much anyhow. And so they're looking at it from a linear perspective, but it's really not a linear perspective. So when you look at you not working in network marketing, not putting in the effort, the time, the energy, you're not losing out on a day's wages. You're losing out on the compound effect of what would happen if you did do that activity. So the consequences, quite frankly, are actually significantly greater by by continuing to put things off. I mean, if you started working today and you stayed focused over and you were doing, even if it was small activities every single day for an extended period of time, the compounded effect of that, because of the leverage of what we have in network marketing, being able to earn income on the efforts of other people will far outweigh, missing one day at work, for example. So there's a dramatic impact that not acting has on your future earnings. Now, when it comes to compounding interest or saving money, and I don't proclaim to be the financial planner, the financial expert. I have people that do that with me in my life. In fact, I'll share something with you. Years ago, when I was making no money, I had no savings, I had literally nothing in the bank. So if something happened, I was going to be in big trouble. I had a friend of mine who I still invest with to this very day, is one of my financial advisors. And he was like, dude, just put $50 away. Just put $50 a month away. And I was like, $50, holy smokes, that's like, I can't afford to. He's like, if you can't afford to put $50 away, you need to adjust your lifestyle. And so it's interesting, and I'll show you something. I'll show you when we're talking about the compound effect, right? The compounding of either interest over time. I'll just call it compounding up here. So if we talk about that, if you were to put $50 away per month for, let's say 30 years, and you're doing this monthly, at the end of 30 years, that would be worth about 42 grand. If that was at, and this is, I'm going to use this as an example of, this is at 5%. if you're earning 5%, which is pretty low, right? 5% interest on something is a pretty low interest. Now, if we took it to $100 a month for 30 years, that would be roughly 84 grand that you would have. If you look at it, check this out. If we just stop right here, $100 a month might seem like a lot if you've never started putting money aside or putting money into an investment. But $100 a month is, most people blow $100 a month every single month. But 30 years later, it's worth 84 grand at 5%. So if we took it and we're like, well, let's get a little bit more aggressive, and we go, let's do $500 a month for 30 years. What do you think that would be worth? You ready? At 5%, it would be worth just over 420. Oh, am I missing a zero? 420,000. 420,000 bucks that you'd have for your retirement, for you to live your life. Now, okay, well, let's take it to, wow, what if you actually put $1,000 a month away for 30 years? What do you think that would be worth? $1,000 a month, 30 years at 5% interest. That would be worth, what do you think? Well, it'd be worth about $836,000. Just with that alone, putting $1,000 a month away, socking it away, not touching it every single month like clockwork, at 5%, you'd be, just with that investment alone, by the time that was over at the end of 30 years, you would be pretty close to a millionaire in terms of your net earnings. Now, what if we had $1,000 a month for 30 years at 10%? What do you think that would be? You ready? $2,280,000 roughly. Actually, a little bit more than that. $2.2 million that you'd have socked away if you just put $1,000 away every single month for 30. Now, well, Todd, I'm older. Well, if you did it from ages, let's say you're a little late. You did it ages 30 to 60, or you did it ages 40 to 70. Maybe you're a little bit late and you go, maybe you're, 50 to 80. Obviously, you want to get started now. If you're young and you're watching this video and you're like, well, wait a second. If I started at age 20, ages 20 to 50, if you started putting $1,000 away at age 20, can you imagine by the time you're age 50, if you were doing that at 10% interest, by the time you're 50, you're worth $2.2 million, just with that investment alone. So it's not what you make, it's what you keep. And the reason I'm doing this like financial series, which I've been doing on Facebook, and I'm doing this video and this episode for you now, if you're watching this on or listening to this on podcast, is too many people get themselves into financial trouble in life, period. I think the average 50-year-old has, statistically, I don't remember where this data came from because I don't have it in front of me at the moment, but the average 50-year-old, by the time they reach 50, have less than $50,000 in their accounts. Their net worth is less than 50 grand. They have less than 50,000. Maybe they have a negative net worth, in fact, but they have maybe $50,000 in savings at age 50. It takes discipline. It takes making a decision, but you know what? Mommy and daddy always said, save for a rainy day. The reality is, even in the desert, it rains. In fact, if you've ever lived in the desert, I spent 5 years living in the desert. When it rains in the desert, it pours. Monsoon, dumping, pouring. So you're living in a place like, there'll never be a rainy day. The flooding in a desert is insane if you've ever lived in a desert. Because when the rain comes hard and it comes heavy. And so you're building a business, you got to be thinking about, well, what's my end game? Like when am I going to be able to retire if I wanted to? When can I get to a point where I don't have to work anymore unless I choose to continue to work? You don't want to be 80 working at Jack in the Box. You don't want to be the 85-year-old guy that's, when I drop off my car to get service, you're the guy that's driving me back to my house in the in the vehicle to get me back to my pad. In fact, I've met a lot of those guys. I've had conversations with those guys. I had a very clear conversation with a guy about, he's like, yeah, he goes, I don't want to do this, but I have to because I didn't save my money. And there was a conversation, I'll end with this. Many, many years ago, I was, I was probably 19 or 20. My family owned a radio station, and I was working the board on the radio station. I had some late shift, and I'd come in there and basically make sure the music was playing. And there's this guy named Jack who was on before me. And I remember as I was walking in and he was walking out, and he was an old dude, like, I don't know how old he was. He was probably late 80s, early 90s. Scruffily dressed, not nice clothes. His car was, I don't know, and this is probably in 1992, 91, 90, something like that. Actually, it was probably about I think it might have been 88 or 89. He was driving this 1969 or 1970 giant boat, this old crappy car where the paint was completely dilapidated. And what's sad is, I'm talking to this guy and he's like, kid, don't be like me. He goes, I'm old and I shouldn't be working anymore, but I wasn't wise with my money. I didn't save. And there's so many people that don't save. And if you're not saving now, if you're like, I can't afford to save, then you need to adjust your lifestyle. You need to go, okay, well, what can I give up? Do I really need this super expensive cable bill? Do I need to dine out? It's crazy what people will spend money on, but they don't save for themselves. And if you look at this, it's crazy. If we even it's not that hard to save $1,000 a month. That's $12,000 a year that you're socking away. At 5% in 30 years, it's $836,000. Man, at 10%, $2.2 million, you're a multimillionaire by the time you're retired just from $1,000 a month. So it's the compound effect is these amazing results that you're able to achieve by seemingly insignificant activities. And I started small. I started out at $50 a month with my guy 30 plus years ago. I still invest in that particular account, $50 a month. I have multiple accounts with him, different things that I do. I sock away a lot more money than that every month, but that's what I started with. And to see what that's worth today, because I've done way better than 5%, is staggering. It's unbelievable the effect of compound interest and compounding even in your efforts in network marketing. So multiple things here. I'm really more talking about the money today, but it's also the compounded effect of your result, the results that you get, the compounded effect of you putting the work in over an extended period of time in a leveraged business like network marketing. It's super valuable. Use this lesson, put it to use. I don't know if you're watching me on YouTube, that's great. The rest of the story is happening over at toddfalcone.com. If you're on my podcast, that's great as well. Love my podcast listeners. Depending on where you're finding me, if you want to see the rest of this video and anything else that's associated with it, you can go to toddfalcone.com/episode 49. Again, toddfalcone.com/episode 49. Have yourselves an amazing day, and we'll see you next time.